Hi guys, today we are going to be reacting to Diving Disaster, the video on YouTube. This one's got a lot of views and it's one I've been asked to actually react to, so let's see how it goes. As always, when it comes to reacting to kind of like accident videos, the idea is not to be mean or critical about the divers, it's more to be constructive and actually give good feedback and then use it as a case study for other divers so that we can learn from this experience together. And that way then you can avoid having these kind of problems yourself. And obviously I'm going to use my professional opinion as a scuba diving instructor to give accurate feedback so that you can know what's the best way to respond to these kind of situations. And with that out of the way, let's jump into the video. Okay, so starting off, they're on a dinghy, which is fine, and looks like they're going to be doing a backroll entry. So 3 divers attempt to do their deep advanced dive. Okay, it's fairly new divers in South Africa. They're going to go back to the surface. Oh, is this a negative entry? Whoa, okay. So just to start off, that's kind of unusual. So backroll entries, for like a standard backroll entry you would normally do, is you'll obviously be sitting on the edge of the boat, bottom over the edge, just so you're like easier to get back into the water. You want to have your right hand over your mask and regulator, and have your left hand on your weight belt, and then you just roll backwards into the water, but you'll have your BCD inflated. So that means, so when you hit the water, you're just on the surface, and then from that point you then either meet at the back of the boat or the front of the boat and just convene as a group, make sure everyone's okay or give the okay signal to everyone, and at that point then the instructor will tell you, okay, let's go down all together as a group. So instead they've done a negative entry, so they've done all that first stuff, but they've also had deflated BCDs. So instead of them getting back to the surface of the water, they go under the go straight down. And usually when you do a negative entry, you kind of just get down to 5 meters, which is about 15 feet for the Americans. And you just basically check if everyone's okay there at depth, and then just continue descent downwards. It's a little bit more advanced to do that though, so a bit of an unusual way to start a deep dive in the advanced course, where you typically got newer divers who are less experienced. The reason you may do a negative entry like that is if you've got a certain drop point you want to be going to and it's a current dive. So because there's a current, so let's say for example there's a wreck here and you're dropping down, the current's going to bring you down towards the wreck. So if you spend too much time on the surface, you're going to drift along, and then when you do drop, you might miss the wreck. So that's one reason why you go negative and actually have to have a somewhat faster descent. But it's a bit unusual and it's a bit more technical and demanding for newer divers, so it's usually avoided. So that's already a bit of an unusual choice to do the negative entry, but there might be a reason for that. So this seems to be descending. No, oh, but a hand's going on. Oh wait, is that a line? Are they going to descend off a line? Oh, so they are meant to be on the surface. Okay. So that wasn't meant to be a negative entry. The issue there was that they weren't inflated enough as a BCD. I'm not entirely sure where their GoPro is on the person. I'm not sure if it's a head cam or it's a body cam. Hard to tell. Maybe from positioning, I'm assuming it's a body cam. But I think they could have inflated their BCD a bit more and then be a bit more control on the surface. But it seems like they're now on the surface and they're going to meet by a actual line. Lines are great, by the way, as a tool. Obviously for new divers, you'll have to use them on your open water course for the first couple of dives. But you can actually use them on other dive sites in the future, and there's something wrong with that. It'll actually help you have a nice smooth descent down to the bottom of the dive site, which is great. And the nice thing about lines are that you can go down as a team nice and easily, but also you can take it down nice and slowly. So you just pull yourself down the line where you need to, and then equalize, pull yourself down, equalize. So you should never have an issue with equalizing with a line involved. And if you do have any problems with equalizing, you can just go back up a little bit higher on the line and then equalize again when there's less pressure. So it's one of those great things. So it's good to see them using a line. Always great if one's available to make a descent a lot smoother and easier, especially again with newer divers who aren't probably as familiar at doing a deep dive. So they're going to go down deeper. So it's going to make their descent a lot smoother and easier for them. So good stuff on the instructor's point, using a line to help them get down. Starring, oh, that says starring, not share. We're seeing the guy who panics. So the guy's going to panic. That's not great. Oh, what's he? Oh God, I've just seen it says it was burst his eardrum as well. Okay, let's go back to that first bit. So don't do what this guy just does now by going just upside down and kicking downwards. You've got a line, so just stay nice and vertical, fins downwards, and just pull yourself down the line and go down. There's no need to go 180 degrees upside down and kick yourself downwards. It's not like you can't do that this type of descent, but it's used exclusively for rapid descent. So again, if there's a current and there's a wreck you need to get to, you can swim down like that because you need to descend fast. But it's a bit more skilled because you need to be very efficient at equalizing, and again, it's generally not needed for most dives, especially if you've got a line. Use the line, just be nice and vertical but with fins down, and just pull yourself down the line and just keep equalizing as you go down. So that's completely unnecessary. I just saw then with the fin, it gets really close to his buddy's face as well. If you watch here, it gets right next to the camera. Yeah, it almost hits his buddy in the face. That can knock off a mask, it can knock out a regulator. It's very bad awareness. So I'm guessing that's one of the students, but as an instructor, you should really make some noise, make a tapping noise, be like, oi, don't do that. Stop. Tell them to go and get vertical and just not do that. But then it says the stud guy apparently is going to burst his eardrum, which you shouldn't be doing. Is just a thing, as I explained. The line is a very easy control way to have descent, so there shouldn't be any reason to have an eardrum burst. Just to explain how it all works. So as we descend and go downwards, imagine just using my head as a reference right now, we'll start descending, and as we go down deeper, there's going to be more pressure coming inwards to our head. So our eardrum, which is a barrier there, will start to bend inwards like this. So what we do is we add equalize, often pitch and blow method, and that adds air on the other side to then get back to where it should be, so it's nice and comfortable again. Go down deeper, goes back, equalize, goes back to normal. Deeper, more pressure, equalize, back to normal. And because you have the line, you can control it, so you don't have to worry about keep descending and keep on top of it. You just do it comfortably. So once you feel that bit of pressure in the ear, then you equalize it. Bit of pressure, equalize. So there should be no reason to ever have too much pressure in your ear. When an eardrum actually bursts, it's because you've gone down too deep, that it's bent so much that it's really hard then. If you try and equalize, it won't work. And what happens with some divers, instead of doing gentle equalizers, what you should be doing, they do one big forceful equalize and it goes bang, and it bursts the eardrum, making obviously a hole in it, which will give you a sense of relief initially, but the big issue is it gives people a big sense of vertigo, so lose all their bearings of what's up and what's down, they get very disorientated, they can crash into things, and it really is like an end the dive situation. So if someone does burst the eardrum, you just need to tell the instructor, problem in my ear, and be like, I need to end the dive, or I need to go up, because it's not a equalizing issue, it's a my ear is busted issue. So the fact they do this is a bit worrying that they might not use this line properly. So we're gonna have to see how they handle this. A lot of bubbles going on right now. Oh, so are they already going really deep? Yeah, they're not even using the line. Oh my gosh. Even though if you can descend free, if there's a line there, use the line. Some people think it's uncool to use lines. Just use a line, it's safer, it's more sensible. And again, for this course, when it's like newer divers involved, use the line. You have no egos that are going to get bruised. There's no one going to judge you for using a line. Use the line. And as you can always see, these guys are on the surface, and these guys are suddenly quite a bit further down. They're not staying together tightly as a group, which is not good. You want to stay nice and close together on your descents. That guy's really far away from the line. So, not great descent, but we'll see how it goes. Eardrum's gone. Oh god. So this is when he will start to experience vertigo, as I said. So he's going to be disorientated, as you can see from the camera. So yeah, bad vertigo, started spinning. At this point, you really probably should be trying to get someone's attention, like especially an instructor, be like, hey, there's a problem, I need to get my ear sorted. Okay, at least that guy's using the line though, so that's good. But no one else is doing it, so quite scattered, which isn't great for the descent. But hopefully once they get back all to this, looks like a wreck they're going to, once they get to that wreck, they can hopefully group up then and be okay. So going down. Is that guy standing on the wreck? I have no idea what's up or down. Focus on it. So realistically, you should be ending the dive if you've got vertigo. If you're experiencing this is not a, oh, I can just get on with it situation. But one thing is the diver said he's doing, he's using other divers and the wreck as a reference, and that will help you kind of get your bearings even though you're not fully with it. But realistically, you should try and get the instructor's attention as soon as possible. And we're like, hey, I've got a problem with my ear, I need to go up. They shouldn't try and continue this dive. Also, just on the instructor's kind of point, I think they've been a bit negligent right now. You should be really monitoring people on descent. Descents are very important to get right. If you have a bad descent, again, like things like this eardrum bursting happens, it can just ruin the dive, and again, it might cause you to have to redo the whole descent. You're gonna have to go back to the boat now, get this diver who's got burst eardrum on board, and probably leave them there, have the crew look after him, and then just check over everyone else, check if they've got enough air to continue the dive, and then redo the descent. So by just not paying full attention to your students, it's now created this problem now where they actually might have I've lost my train of thought with that. It creates this problem. It's just one of those things that can very snowball very quickly, because trying to dive with vertigo is not a good situation to be in. But yeah, another thing I just don't like here is everyone is in this vertical position, or again, using your hands, there's a lot of hand movement going on. They're not looking good. So this could be a situation where they are overweighted and they haven't realised they need to inflate their BCD as much. They might have just, again, it's their first deep dive, so they might be not getting some gas narcosis, which is slowing down their thinking and not making their awareness as good. But realistically, they're not neutrally buoyant, they're not looking comfortable. There are a lot of vertical divers, flailing around divers. As an instructor, when you should be, as I say, monitoring the descent, but also monitor them when they get to depth. Once they get to depth, make sure everyone's okay, make sure everyone gets flat into the trim position, they're not flailing around, they're looking good, they're at their neutral buoyancy. And at that point then, when you know everyone's comfortable, then you can start guiding and actually have a little bit less attention on them because you know they're good, and then just periodically look back at them. But because they're all a bit all over the place right now, this is not a good start point. The dive's already started in a bad way. And as I said, this thing can then quickly snowball with more and more problems arising because you haven't just got them in a good, comfortable position. Get people, it sounds so simple having people in trim and just not messing around as much, but it really does make a big impact on the dive. These little things quickly do snowball, and it is a little bit negligent on the instructor's part, not just purely these divers being inexperienced. Okay, so he's looking around. As I say, he's probably disoriented quite a bit. Has he got a mask out there or something? Something's distracting that guy then. He's flailing around quite a lot with his hands, so he's definitely not got his neutral buoyancy correct. His buddy as well is moving around quite a bit. He's not in a good neutral buoyancy position. So a signal to Wasim there is a problem. So I'm guessing Wasim's, hopefully he's the instructor so the instructor can help, but the way he's moving, I don't think he is. He looks like a new diver who's not fully in control. His body position is not correct. He's kind of his angled position. He's moving his arms and kicking a bit. So he's not looking to control himself. So even though it's good to let your buddy know there's a problem, it's better to let the instructor know, not just a random student, because this guy, again, he's a new diver. He's open water certified and starting his advanced course. He's not experienced. He doesn't know how to fix problems underwater. He's not done a rescue course. So even though it's good to let him know and like let other people know that there's a problem, you should let the professional know in the water who's the instructor here. So not the best situation. So I don't think he's going to know fully what to do. He then knocks my rig out. Yeah, case in point. I guess he tried to help us something, and then he just, again, maybe disorientated, maybe a bit, but you end up knocking your regulator out your mouth. So this is what I talk about snowballing. This simple problem has now become a bigger problem, which is, it wasn't even a simple problem to begin with. It's an end of dive problem, but it's quickly escalating. So now you've got no regulator in your mouth, and that can become a bit of a situation in itself because you obviously need an air source to breathe from when at depth. So just for seeing what he can do to try and fix this now, if the regulator's really easily available, you can help him get back into his own mouth. Or a better situation, which you can do, is just get out your alternate, your octopus, which is your yellow regulator, have it nice and extended, and deliver that to him and guide that to his mouth. And that way then you can get him under control, and then from that point you can then get his primary and get that back to his mouth and just do it safely. But you don't want to just not do anything. You need to actually take action here. This is a bad situation to be at depth without air. So hopefully he's going to give him a hand here. Or he's just going to flail around and Wasim's just going to look at him blindly. I'm guessing he's got it back in again now. Don't do what he's doing though and just ignore you, but if you knock out the regulator, don't be like, oh, sorry, I'm just going to stand and sit back. That's not a good idea. You should, as I try and help them out, deliver air to them or help them get their air source back to them. Don't just be there. He might be a bit knocked himself. There's a little bit of leeway to it, and he's an inexperienced diver. But similarly, you really should help your buddy out if they don't have a regulator in their mouth. Okay, and as you can see, audio is gone right now, but as you can see, like a lot of kicking. So they might be ascending. Oh, yeah. So I think they ascended because they're quite far away from the wreck, as you can see. So the instructor's spotted them up and he's jumped in to save the day. Just in fairness to the instructor on some side of things, it is one of those things where you just look around for a bit, you're doing a bit of guiding, and then you just turn around and suddenly someone's way higher up than they should be. And you're like, what is going on? And you have to just jump in there. So that's a little bit of leeway on the instructor side of things. But realistically, I feel like the instructor's been not very present. They haven't like been there during the descent. They were kind of first to get down and with one of the students and left the other two quite a bit behind, and that's when they had a problem with their descent. I haven't seen anyone having to check around giving okays to people to see if they're doing. Haven't seen anyone checking air. So the instructor's not really been present. So it kind of is the instructor's fault right now that they've had to suddenly jump in because other diver's having a problem and he's higher up than he should be. Because another student's trying to fix a problem for him who really shouldn't be there to fix a problem. Students aren't there to solve problems unless they've done their rescue course. But realistically, it should be on the onus of the instructor, who's the professional, who's there to look after them, who's liable for their safety, to be looking after them. So I think the instructor has been a bit negligent, to be honest, on this side of things. So the instructor is sorting them out though, thankfully. A lot of flailing still, so it doesn't, and they're getting back to depth. I would, at this point, make sure they're getting into the trim position, make sure they're good to carry on, really. But I don't know, it's hard to see from this body position. So they are at depth now, thankfully. So the fist pump hopefully signals that they got them back into the trim and they got them back into a nice position, but I don't know. I can still see a hand then just move. But yeah, the hand's still moving, so they're not looking great still. They probably are still moving around like this a bit. Look for our boy on the top right of the screen. Okay, so this guy over here. So he's kicking downwards. A lot of them are kicking downwards, so I think they're trying to get back up to depth because they've gone deeper than they should do. They need to stay at the same depth as the instructor, really. And the instructor should be telling them off like, hey, you guys need to come up to my level. Oh, he's telling him, so I think he is aware, he must have, we couldn't see from the camera, but he must have told him about the problem with his ear. So I think the instructor is saying we do need to go up there right now. First signs of panic, diver, check the bottom of the screen. Oh god, yeah, look at all the bubbles. Okay, if you see that much bubbles, by the way, when you turn and you see that, that is usually a sign of a panic diver or a major air loss, which is also a big issue because it could be like a tank purging its air out because it could have a problem. It's like, see lots of bubbles, always a sign that you probably need to fix something here. Or again, we're going to see what exactly the issue is, but it might just be him moving a lot. But he's grabbing the alternate. Okay, so for some reason he's out of air. Now, I don't think I saw him actually give the signal for out of air. He just went straight for the alternate. Let's just check that. He just, yeah, I think he just grabbed it. This is a messy. So he's gone for the student, not the instructor, which is less good. But the problem is he's just kind of grabbing for the alternate. Again, this is, if you're in an out of a scenario, by the way, a lot of people don't think logically. So benefit of doubt right now. The best situation you could do is tell them I'm out of air, and then they can start to respond by trying to give you air. Right now they're reaching, thankfully they're not gone for the primary, they're gone for the alternate, so they're not making that a dangerous situation for the other diver, but it's kind of like hard for them to know what you're trying to do, messing with them, it can scare some people. It would have been a lot better if you just quickly give that signal and then try to reach for it, because then they could help deliver you that alternate, instead of it being such a messy situation of you scrambling trying to get that alternate and then all this stuff happening. So not great, but at least it looks like they managed to get the alternates. Yeah, they end up getting it. He's still kicking, so that's not good, because that can make them start ascending. The instructor's getting involved, so ideally, if I was the instructor in a situation, I see this happening, I'd want to get involved, so obviously get involved, but you want to give them your alternates, so you're taking control and you can then make contact with them. At that point as well, because he's moving around a lot, you want to just lock them down. Get your legs around their legs, stop them moving, potentially grab their hands and keep that locked in as well, and just hold them in place while they're breathing off your alternate. And then at that point, you can just get them to breathe and calm them down, get them to do slow, nice, slow breathing. And once they look a bit stable, I would then check their air supply, make sure it actually is empty, and even just check their valve as well, just make sure it's fully turned on, because it might have got stuck somehow, and that's what cut the air off. And at that point, then you can decide, am I going to continue the dive, or do I need to, like, this guy actually is out of air, we need to finish the dive, which in a weird way is probably good for the guy who's got a burst eardrum, because the dive should be looking to be ended anyway right now because of him. But This is just a double, very messy dive. This stuff should not be happening. So hopefully the instructor just take control right now. We're going to see. So it looks like, yeah, the instructor's giving his alternate over to them. Okay. So the instructor is taking control, thankfully. He's still kicking though, so they probably are sending right now still. I feel that so much. What the heck is going on? Oh my god, that's too funny. Again, this is a student, so yeah, it shouldn't be on them to be doing a rescue situation and helping someone out. Like, this is not their thing to be doing. This should be the instructor's responsibility. So the fact they're having to deal with this right now, they're like, what is my dive today? You've got a burst eardrum, this guy just panicked and just stole my alternate. What is this dive? I feel that. And I feel bad for the actual student here, because it should not be their situation to have to deal with. And they're not rescue trained either, so it could have gone wrong. But so thankfully, it's a lot more in control than it could be, than it actually is. But yeah, see how this continues. So the instructor has given the alternate, it looks like now. It's hard to see from this angle, but they're still kicking upwards. So I want to lock them down first, because you're going to keep ascending right now, which isn't great, because before you know it, you're going to be at the surface of the water. I can't hear any beeping though, so they're not ascending too fast by sounds of things. So it's like a somewhat controlled ascent. So they decide, it's hard to see from the angle, but if that's the decision that you're going to finish the dive as instructor, you should probably quickly just give everyone an okay, make sure the other two divers are okay as well as that diver you've got with you. But then just tell them we're going to go up. They haven't been diving very long, it's only 5 minutes into the video, so they can skip the safety stop. It's not like they're in a situation where they've taken on probably too much nitrogen. So safety stop can be omitted. And it's also, if there's a situation you can skip a safety stop, it's not always required. So if the guy is looking very uncomfortable who's low on air, but in similar, you can just continue and skip the safety stop and just do the descent that way. But I will say, is if he does look very uncomfortable, I don't like them kicking to do their ascent, because they might bolt to the surface. So one thing you could do is just lock them in and just actually do your ascent via having good breathing technique as instructor, doing like good breathing, but also use the LPI and just do small inflates and control it with deflates as well. And that way you can just do the ascent that way, and there's no worry about them bolting because you fully lock them in. They're not going to have to panic and bolt away. So that's one thing they could have done just to keep it even more under control. But I don't know, it seems like it's going to be okay. Oh, wait a sec. At one point we see make for breakfast. So as I say, he bolted. Because I say, the guy's still kicking and moving around quite a bit. You really need to lock someone in like that, because they can just go for the surface if they look a bit panicked. They're not thinking straight. And now they're at the surface. So I don't know how fast the ascent was, but because I couldn't hear any beeping, I'm assuming the ascent was at an okay rate. But yeah, at least it looks like he got back on board safely. Nice butt shot there. Watch what our boy looked like when he got back on. Oh god, what's happened? So look at the good thing here is it looks like the crew are helping him get back on the board the boat. So that's great, getting the crew member involved, so it's not fully on the instructor. I'm guessing that's the instructor who's helping him out the water. I don't know though. So at this point, I feel like they should get oxygen out. If someone's looking this bad, like they can't get themselves up, you need to get them back on board the boat. And with the other the crew member here just standing around, not really doing anything to help him get back on, you've got them there and just standing there. At that point, if I was the instructor, I'll be like, okay, I can get back on the boat, you go get the oxygen, and we can start administering emergency oxygen to the guy so he can start recovering faster. Because if he did bolt for the surface, there is a higher chance of him getting the bends. It's a fast descent rate, and it can cause bubbling in the tissues. So even though they haven't been down super long, there still is a chance of there being DCS. So you should really be considering that as a possibility, especially if they're looking like this. So emergency oxygen should be being administered right now, and not just him standing around. You don't need two people doing this. It's fine. You should be going to get the oxygen. So you should get him to lie down if he is feeling really rough. Yeah, so he's really bad. So he should be in a recovery position right now. Actually, that's not ideal. That position isn't. So where's the oxygen? Come on. I'm guessing the crew member's gone to get the oxygen, hopefully, so they can start giving that. They didn't give him... That's a red flag. That's a very red flag. What I want to know here is, did they not give him the oxygen because they were trying to be stingy and not use the oxygen? or it's that they didn't bring the oxygen. So a great piece of advice for if you ever go diving with people you don't know is when you get on board the boat, always ask, do you have the emergency oxygen and is it on board the boat? If either of those answers are no, do not go diving with them. You want to make sure that stuff's on the boat because that can be the difference between life and death. And it sounds very extreme, but in these situations where people have really bad DCS and stuff like this, it's really important that it's on board the boat. It's really important as well that not just the instructor knows how to administer the emergency oxygen, but also the crew on board know how to do it, because as you saw in that situation, the instructor was helping them get back on board the boat. And then during that time, one of the crew members could be getting the oxygen out, getting it set up, and then giving it to him while it's being sorted out by the instructor. So it's really bad that he firstly wasn't even doing any of this, but part of me is thinking right now, maybe they didn't even have that oxygen on the boat because they should be using it. If someone looking that bad and looking collapsed on the boat and not looking good at all, you should be administering oxygen to them. So really, really bad that this oxygen wasn't even given to someone. That's really sloppy. I hope it was on the boat and they just thought he looked better than he was with bad assessment skills, rather than they just didn't bring it on the boat, because that's very dangerous. So I think this is fast forwarded a bit. So this looks like he's standing up now at least. I'm guessing that's the guy and he's not looking too hot. So I made this video so you can see what can happen on a normal, relaxed, everyday dive. Can we just cover this was not a normal dive? This was a dive where a lot of things went wrong and it was getting very preventable. This was just very sloppy. A lot of things just weren't addressed early on and it just snowballed. That's why it ended up like this. This was so preventable. Preventable? I hope you can take something out of this dive. Yeah, as a grateful resource. I love these kind of videos for resource teams. Our team is lucky to be around and diving today. We will continue to take our courses and are now soon going to be dive masters. Oh, that's fantastic. So it didn't scar them. They actually decided to continue, which is really positive. Because some people might go, all diving is dangerous after this, and that's not the right attitude. It was very preventable, and it was just from a bit of negligence why this happened. That's good. But yeah, just to recap over it all, weird entry to water, like not having their BCDs inflated enough, not using the line properly on their descent, one guy going upside down and stuff, and the instructor not keeping them tight to go down slowly together. There's no reason for them to, some go faster down and some go slower. They should do all controlled while also checking everyone's okay. The instructor should be checking all the time in descent, is everyone okay? And they don't have to worry then about someone having to overly equalize their ear and burst their eardrum with a line that should not be happening. That's really, really bad. And it's probably because they felt pressured because the instructor and another student were further down, so they're trying to catch up, and then they were neglecting their ear, which was not a good situation at all. As soon as vertigo happens, you should be telling the instructor, I've got a problem with my ear and we need to end the dive. Ignoring that, trying to continue was bad. People not getting into the trim position and be flailing around their hands was bad. They need to get their BCD inflated to the correct amount so that they're neutrally buoyant, keep their hands still and together, and also get nice and trim, and then they can continue the dive. And him not going to the instructor and trying to get his buddy to fix it was not a good idea, because that's a new diver who doesn't know what to do. Do not expect fellow students to help you out. Go to the professional. They are trained to handle these situations. But I think the instructor was not paying attention enough. The first time I actually see the instructor in the video properly was when the guy had started to ascending a bit and the instructor had to jump in to get them back down under control. If the instructor was paying a lot more attention, that would have been avoided. And honestly, I still don't know what happened to Wasim with the out of air situation. I don't know if his tank valve got stuck, if he just felt like it got tight. Maybe the airflow on the regulator wasn't high enough, so it felt like it was very tight breathing. So that's why he panicked and went for the other person's alternate to breathe off that. But realistically, it was a really messy situation that just didn't need to happen. The instructor did take control, but I think he should have first locked him in because he's so panicked that. And he's still kicking the whole time. You need to stop that completely, because if he keeps kicking, it's going to keep you ascending. And as you saw then, he got even more panic still and he bolted for the surface, which is not a good situation. And then finally, not giving the oxygen, that's just so sloppy. That's really, really, really worrying. It might be a one-off, but if knowing that, it does really put me off ever going with a company if I see situations like this or not doing it. It's one of those situations where even if I'm a customer, I really find it hard not to step in and be like, guys, what the heck are you doing? Do this. Because it is really bad to see that they didn't give oxygen to someone when he looked that bad. Luckily, as I say, he was fine in the end, but it will help him recover faster, and it's there for a reason. It's there to be used. If people aren't feeling good, you should be giving them the oxygen. But yeah, very preventable. I hope this was a great learning experience for you guys to see that what can go wrong if you don't do very basic things. These are very basic, by the way, and they should have been resolved. But advanced is always weird on that side of things. That it's divers who are still very inexperienced, but they are getting a bit more comfortable with things. So it's that kind of weird transition phase where they're still learning and mistakes can be made. And it's important to remember that we are all divers. We've all made mistakes in the past. So don't be mean to these divers. We've all been there to some extent, and it's all a part of learning. And from making mistakes like this, you actually do learn not to do this kind of stuff again, which is great. If you did enjoy the video, or you found it interesting or educational in any way, please give it a like. It helps me out a ton, but also help other people find this video too. And I've been Narked Tom. I hope you guys are having awesome dives out there, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.